Kamala Harris's border trip didn't actually include a trip to the border. Another parent speaks out on critical race theory. Plus, we'll hear from our special guest, Terry Schilling. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a Saturday live stream.
God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Saturday. I hope you're having a great day. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. Now, if you're watching live on my channel, we've got the awesome Trump rally that's coming up in just about an hour or so. If you're watching on Right Side Broadcasting, I hope you enjoyed the rally, and thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to start with Kamala Harris because the pressure was building. This is our so-called border czar, the person named to head the border crisis efforts. And it's been over 90 days. The pressure was building and building and building for her to actually go to the border. And it wasn't just building from Republicans. It started to build from the media as well.
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
It's just nonsensical, folks. She hasn't been to Europe either. But, that's what I was saying. The Republicans, the pressure was building. The media was even starting to build. But then former President Trump announced, you know what? I'm going to go to the border, the actual real part of the border, and get something done. I'm going to go with Governor Abbott, a congressional delegation. Well, word got out as soon as that announcement was made. All of a sudden, Biden and Harris, they're scrambling. It's like, we got to get her to the border. Kamala, you need to go to the border. So they put this trip together for yesterday, and here's the story. Vice President Kamala Harris said Friday that the Biden administration has made progress in trying to gain control of the southern border, even as it tries to pave a more lenient path for migrants rushing to the U.S. in hopes of gaining a foothold. She delivered an upbeat assessment of the Biden team's approach to what has been a record border surge, with illegal migrant children coming in at unprecedented levels and other illegal immigrants tallying rates not seen in more than 2 decades. All right, so we're going to get to her assessment in just a little bit. But folks, here's the deal. This trip to El Paso was a photo op. What's really going down is what's going down in the Rio Grande Valley, way down south. But she goes to El Paso, holds meetings at an airport, and then tours a Border Patrol facility. So she goes on a tour and has airport meetings. And when she gave her press conference, when she made her statements, with this surge just going out of control, you know who she blamed? Former President Trump. And here's Harris.
Our administration, it is important to be clear, is working to build a fair and a functional and a humane immigration system. We feel very strongly about that. And as you know, we inherited a tough situation. In fact, right here in El Paso was the launch of the child separation policy. You saw it as it rolled out on the ground in real time. We have looked at a system where people have been housed in inhumane conditions over the last many years. An asylum system that has been broken and that needs to be reconstructed. And in 5 months, we've made progress, but there's still much more work to be done. But we've made progress.
We've made progress. Folks, does she think we are all stupid? We made progress? Check this out. I want to put this chart up on the screen. Is this progress? The numbers in January and February are bad enough. They're terrible. Then it gets even worse. 173,000 in March, 178,000 in April, 180,000 in May. How is that progress? All right, and I want to touch on one thing that I think is very important. She talks about progress. She was also talking about humane conditions. And I tell you what, folks, it would actually be more humane if for a certain period of time we fully closed the border. We just told people, don't come, you won't be able to get in, and we're going to turn you back. Because what they are doing, what Biden and Harris are doing is inhumane for these children. There was a clip I saw the other day, and I just want to play this for you. This is a news reporter blasting Harris on these humane conditions and telling what's really going on.
Unaccompanied minors who I spent time with, who are filled with optimism, but they are without their family.
No, Mrs. Vice President. For the record, migrant children are not optimistic and okay. Maybe you didn't catch that in today's quick tour of the Border Patrol facility in El Paso. But if you traveled a few miles further to Fort Bliss Army Base, you'd find that kids are so miserable in their cages, some of them have been placed on suicide watch. In fact, dozens have been placed on suicide watch. This is according to reporting from CBS News. It says the following: federal officials became so concerned about migrant teens harming themselves that they banned pencils, pens, scissors, nail clippers, and regular toothbrushes inside tents housing hundreds of children. According to an internal document, workers at the site said they were even instructed to remove the metal nose clips from N95 face masks.
All right, so that's the situation. Does that sound humane to you? Does that sound like humane treatment of children where they're at the point where they're so depressed that they are suicidal? But that's what's going on with Biden-Harris. These open border policies are exactly what they want. People think that Biden and Harris are incompetent, that they can't handle the situation. I'd like you to think about the fact that they are handling the situation exactly like they want it to be handled. Remember during the Democrat presidential debates, they all raised their hand that they were going to give free health care to illegals. They didn't want to prosecute border crossings. Now they're getting open borders. With the beginning of catch and release, the reinstatement, people get caught. There's assigned a court date. Do you think they're going to come back for that? Do you think they're going to ever show up again? But that's what Biden and Harris are doing right there. They are providing incentives for people to come because they know that they can cross the border legally or illegally and just disappear into the country. That's what's going on. All right. So next, let's talk about critical race theory. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. All right, so let's talk about critical race theory because we have another parent speaking out, another parent who is upset with what the local school board is doing. We see this more and more and more. Racism is being taught to our kids in the classroom. Now, you know what the talking points are. We covered this before, and when I was on the Young Turks debating what I thought was a debate, Rashad Ritchie, they're trying to say that we don't even know what it is, that it's not being taught, that we don't know what it is, and they're surely not talking about racism. Well, they are, and here's the story. A woman criticized the Fairfax County School Board during a Wednesday meeting for including critical race theory in training for teachers and staff at Chantilly High School. Do you recognize this document? It's the study guide that comes with the book Stamped, which is the assigned summer professional development for Chantilly High School teachers. Sue Zoldak, the founder of DoBetterFCPS.com, a group seeking to hold Fairfax County Public Schools leadership accountable, said, referring to an educational guide that went with the book. Okay, so she stood up in front of this board and said, look at what is going on. And again, the left is saying, we don't know what we're talking about. It's not even being taught. We're not telling people to be racist. We're not saying that whites are no good. You guys are just making that up. It's just talking points. It's not being taught, and you don't know what it is. Well, here Zoldak shows up with the book, with the training manual. Check out what it's saying. The study guide makes a number of assertions about racism, the United States, and the Founding Fathers, including racist ideas were embedded in the formation of the U.S. government by the Founding Fathers, whose hypocrisy was manifested in documents that proclaimed freedom and equality for all. Racist ideas, along with economic greed, are central to the formation of this nation, its laws, policies, and practices. Meritocracy and the American dream narrative are rooted in whiteness. Racist ideas rooted in legislation shape the institution of education and its outcomes for black children, while the nation's leaders assert that colorblindness is the solution for racism. Wow. What can you even say, folks? What can you say to that? It's right there in the study guide. She points it out. They are teaching the opposite of everything that I grew up with. The great American melting pot, colorblind society. It's saying right there that that aspect, that idea is bad. We can't do that. They're talking about anti-capitalism. They're promoting socialism to be good, capitalism to be bad. Racist ideology that is getting to our teachers and then going to our students. But thankfully, this parent is fighting back, and more parents are starting to fight back as well. I hope she continues to do it. Okay, that leads us to it's a great segue actually to our special guest. We have a special guest his name's Terry Schilling, and he specializes in working with the families to help them to fight back, because so many of them don't have the tools. They don't know how to organize. They don't know what outlets are available to actually speak out. Here's a little preview of what he's doing.
Politicians are making it harder to be awesome. They're teaching our kids that America is evil, and instead of protecting our kids online, they're protecting the porn companies. Screen time's up, Bob. And now, they're trying to destroy our daughter's sports by allowing boys to compete against them. So what are we as parents to do to help stop this madness? We do what every other group does. We organize and we engage in politics. Who's looking out for America's families? Seniors have the AARP, and gun owners have the NRA. Nice aim, Max. But where do families turn when politicians are causing them problems? They turn to American Principles Project. We're the only group organizing parents and families to help elect good pro-family politicians and unelect the bad guys. We think that politicians should pay a price when they hurt families, and we want to protect the good pro-family guys from all of the anti-family organizations out there. If you love being a dad,
or mom,
or even if you just care about the American family, then join APP today. We're organizing parents to make it easier to get married, have babies, and protect our kids. Elections are important. They determine the future of our country. And we've got to save America. But in order to save America, we've got to save the family.
Oh, that was just awesome, folks. And we have Terry Schilling. He is the executive director of American Principles Project. Terry, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, Bobby.
Yeah, dude. For folks at home, I met Terry just a couple weeks ago on Newsmax. We were doing a segment on this, and I was hooked because I love what you're doing. They let in with that commercial, but the things you were talking about, getting parents involved, why don't you just lead off, and what spurred you to get involved in this?
Well, frankly, Bobby, I was just sick of losing. You know, we hear all the time, you know, people tell us, oh, there's nothing we can do. We don't support big government. And, you know, they give us a long list of excuses. But I'm just sick of losing. And so we were looking at all the things and how parents are getting killed and how they're indoctrinating our kids. And we just thought, let's start an organization like the NRA, except it's just families promoting pro-family policy and politics. And it caught on very quickly, and I kept circulating it around with people and running the idea by them, and no one told me it was a dumb idea. So I thought maybe I finally came up with something good here. Look, we've gotten a great reception so far. We've had over 3,000 people sign up to be members within the first week. We're going to continue to grow from here. What we're going to do is we're going to start a bottom-up organization. We're going to have these families at the local level. They're going to be telling us what they're experiencing, who they like as candidates, and who we need to be delivering resources to change the system all the way from the school board to the presidential level. I'm very excited, Bobby, and I'm really excited to talk more about the details with you today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And man, you hit on a good point, is that people think that a lot of this only gets done, you know, like in Washington or at the state. But we had folks in our county that really got behind several school board elections. And guess what? They won. Our candidates won. Now we have some conservatives on the school board. So how did you get involved in all this? I mean, just personally, your start into this this activism for the family, what brought you to that?
Well, Bobby, I've been involved in politics at an early age. You know, I remember volunteering for the George W. Bush reelection campaign in 2004. I was one of the original Rush Limbaugh babies, but as I got older, I stopped caring so much about the younger, the libertarian issues that I was concerned about as a kid. And I started looking at my own family. You know, Bobby, I've got 5 kids. I've been married for 12 years. And the things that they're teaching our kids in school, the things that they're exposing to our children in their cartoon shows on television, or the things that my kids have access to on the internet that our government isn't even fighting for them against. It's absolutely nuts, and it's got to change. And the thing is, that we know, being involved in politics, is that things won't change until politicians start fearing the voters. Politicians only care about one thing, their reelection. And so when you start unelecting people on these pro-family issues, what'll happen is it'll have a reverberating effect, and you'll start to see more people dropping this insanity of teaching our kids to be racist, teaching our kids to be gender confused, teaching our kids, all these other really weird issues about their innocence and sexuality. And we'll start to make real progress for the American family.
Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, there's man, you touched on some really great issues, but I led in with critical race theory. What is going through your head when you see stuff like that? When you see the left, like I said in the segment, it's so frustrating, man, because I journeyed on despite advice on the Young Turks, Rashad Richey. I love to debate, folks. I will debate anyone, anytime. And I thought we were going to debate critical race theory. And he goes down these talking points, the same thing that I talked about that the media and Democrats are doing. It doesn't exist. It's not being taught. You don't know what you're talking about. But you see the upset parents. You see what's going on. How does that affect you, a father of 5?
Well, Bobby, we don't just see the upset parents and what they're dealing with. We actually see the curriculum. We hear them. These people, these people on the left that are promoting this critical race theory, they really think we're idiots. And it really goes, and I mean by like they think they can fool us, right? Like they are not believers in the American experiment. They do not want government of the people, by the people, or for the people. They want it of the experts, by the elite, and for the elite. And that's what they're trying to set up here. But this affects my kids and it affects my family. Think about this, okay? I'm always concerned about the future of our country. I want my kids and my grandkids to have a better country. What critical race theory teaches is it teaches little white kids and little young boys that they are oppressors. And it teaches all the other kids who are not part of the oppressor class that they are the oppressed. It divides them inherently at very early ages. It teaches them to hate their neighbors, which will lead to a very bad and divided America going forward. But at the heart of it, though, this is what I'm most concerned about, is these teachers are telling our kids that they are racist, that there is nothing they can do to change it. The color of their skin determines the content of their character, but they're not stopping there at teaching our kids that they're racist. As mad as that makes me, they're teaching my kids that I'm racist, that their grandparents are racist, that their great-grandparents who fought in World War II are racist. They want to divide the kids against the family so that the kids look more to the schools for guidance and teaching and everything like that than their own families. It's absolutely rooted in evil, and we need to be just destroying these people and showing up at every school board meeting in the country.
Yeah, absolutely, man, because you hit on it. When you talk about like the core principles that kind of bind America together, you got faith, family, freedom, patriotism. The left hates all of that. And it's exactly like you said. If you can destroy those, if you can chip away at that, people are social beings. They need those families. They need their country. They need that stuff. So if it's chipped away, what's left? Government. That's what they want. They want people to turn to something, and they want them to turn to government. What other issues are out there that you see at the forefront? Because this is insidious. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. What else really gets you going when you think about the issues out there in your family?
Well, obviously the racism stuff really hurts because, I don't want my kids thinking in terms of race. I want them treating everyone equally, regardless of their skin color. If they're a good person, great. If they're a bad person, fine, whatever. But the other issues that really concern me are the issues of my kids' innocence. Right. Everyone's competing for the minds of our children and really at the end of it, their souls. And you look at the state of the internet today, right? My 10-year-old daughter, Reagan, she can't go place a $10 sports bet on the Cubs to win the World Series next year, but she can go to some other really graphic adult websites without any scrutiny whatsoever. It's absolutely absurd. And we need to update our laws. And frankly, we get a lot of pushback from Republicans, and it's just really lame. They give us excuses like they don't know what pornography is. It's really tough to define it. Well, we do a really great job of keeping explicit content off of television and radio and cable. We could do the same thing with the internet just by applying those same standards. So we really got to address that. And we also have to figure out what these guys are teaching our kids in school regarding their gender and their sexuality. And we need to rein that in. Parents really need to be the ones talking to their kids about sex and gender, not these weird school officials. I tell people all the time, I've got 5 kids. It's awkward for me to have the conversation with them about gender and sex, but I do it anyway, because the only thing worse than me talking to my kids about gender and sex is a total and complete stranger who wants to talk to my children about sex. I think those people are weird. I think they should stay away from our kids. But those are the other real issues that are driving this movement. It's really just about empowering parents to take back their kids' education and control their kids, because these guys don't think your kids belong to you. They think they belong to them.
Right. Man, that's awesome. I love that the discomfort that you feel having those talks. Think of the alternative. Think of the alternative, because someone's going to do it. Someone's going to do it. And the left is dying to have those talks. But what comes out? I mean, the way they tried to define men and women, it's just outrageous. I did a clip. We always have a lighter Friday segment. And I did a clip yesterday. A female weightlifter suffers testicle injury. And why? Because the left thinks that men can have babies now, so it must be that women can have a testicle injury while weightlifting, because it's just outrageous. And as an athlete, that one burns me up with the boys and girls sports. It's nonsensical. There's so many issues going on. But what do you think are you hopeful for the future going into 2022, 2024? You see the state of things, razor thin margin for the Democrats in the House, tied up in the Senate. And, we've got people talking about Trump again, talking about DeSantis. What's your vibe? Where do you think things are going?
Bobby, I'm so excited and hopeful for the future. This past week, we saw something really incredible happen. And I believe it's the start of a movement that's going to be more powerful than the Tea Party even. You had these parents in Loudoun County, which is no conservative stronghold by any means. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Parents flooded their Loudoun County school board meeting, protesting the critical race theory and a new transgender policy that the school board was implementing. It got so out of hand that the school board felt so much pressure that they had to end the meeting early. And they ended up actually arresting parents for staying around the meeting and continue to exercise their First Amendment rights. This is the movement. These are the people that our founders were counting on to save the country. As parents, we have to start getting comfortable with the idea of getting arrested at our school board meetings to protect our kids. We have given this all up to the left. If the left can go and burn down our cities and get arrested for all of that on all of this bogus grounds, then we definitely need to be willing to do that for our own flesh and blood, our children, and really the next generation of Americans who are going to continue on our legacy or let it fail. And we can't let this thing fail. It's the biggest, most important experiment in America, or in world and human history, really, besides Christianity. But it's too important. But I'm so optimistic because parents everywhere are standing up, and it's only going to get bigger and better from here.
Yeah, that's awesome, Terry. And we actually have some questions coming in that I want to pass along. We've got one from Jay Koch, and he says, as a member of APP, what would parents do? What would they be asked to do, volunteer or otherwise? If they're going to go sign up, and we'll give you a chance to plug the location, what can they look forward to?
So our members are going to be getting trained on everything across the board, from how to run for office to how to engage. We're going to be providing talking points. We're going to be providing reports on the latest breaking threats to you and your family, right? So we have a groundbreaking report that will be released at the end of this year. I'm so excited for it. It's called Threats to the American Family. It's going to be the Time 100, except for threats to your American family. And we're going to name all the bad guys, including Democrats and Republicans. This is a nonpartisan effort. So we're going to let you know all the major threats to your family and your kids and their innocence and the schools. But on top of that, we're going to train parents on how to get engaged. We're going to let them know when their school board meetings are. We're going to let them know when their local elections are. A lot of this stuff is driven because of the low turnout in these local elections. They have them in random dates in the early spring or winter where no one's really paying attention, and they get 5 to 10% turnout. We have to change that. We have to increase the turnout to presidential levels at the school board level. But if we do that, we are going to change things very, very quickly, and it's going to be really great. So our whole thing is we're not just looking for money. In fact, we're not even asking for that much money. The basic membership is $25 a year, which is like $2 a month. If you go to Netflix, it's like $11.99 a month. Like, so we're not even asking people to give what they give to Netflix. We're just asking you to, get invested, help us build this from the ground up and find more members. We've already got 3,000. I'm hoping to eventually get to NRA level numbers. We'll see where that goes, but I'm very excited. We just want activists. We want people getting engaged, showing up at their school board meetings, running for office, and organizing their family and friends behind this incredibly important pro-family political movement.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and it's so important for people to get engaged. And you talked about it in your previous comment, how, some people, they're going to these school boards, they're getting arrested. I've talked to pro-life folks that are actually not like what they talk about in the summer, but actually peacefully protesting outside of an abortion clinic, just walking, just carrying signs. They get arrested. They get assaulted. And I think the left counts on that. They count on the fear and the intimidation. And people need to know that they have this army behind them that is well-informed. They know the rules. They know the law. And we also support each other. Let's go out there. Let's make a difference at school boards, at these clinics, in education, you name it, in sports. We need to be out there doing it. It's just awesome. And I commend you. I can't wait for that report. I'm going to help publicize it and spread the word on it. I think that's absolutely going to be awesome. So any political plans for you in your future?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, look, I've thought about this. As I'm sure you're aware, my father was involved in politics. I helped him run his campaign. And frankly, Bobby, that was kind of the motivation for this effort. My dad was just a normal, everyday guy. He was a pizza guy with 10 kids, and he was concerned about the direction of his country. He decided to run for office. He asked me to run his campaign. And I'll be honest, I was overwhelmed at the idea of having to collect all the signatures to get on the ballot and having to file the FEC reports. But as I walked through the process, I found out that it's a lot easier than it looks. And this is something that the left has been taking advantage of. They make our political system seem really daunting and overwhelming and impossible to navigate, but it's really easy. And you know what's easy? Because the idiots in our country have taken it over. Look, I want to get parents involved and engaged in this. And how I see it right now is, I could run for Congress and be one out of 435 members, or I could be helping millions of American families across the country run for office and take back these things. I don't know. We'll see. It's just, I have to discern everything, but I really am passionate about this pro-family movement that we're building. I think it's going to be much bigger than any seat in Congress could ever be.
Yeah, I tend to agree, because what you're doing, it can move millions and not just a congressional district. I really love all of that. And Terry, I appreciate you being here. If people want to get involved, where should they go? How can they find out more information?
It's very easy. It's just www.savethefamily.app. Savethefamily.app, just like American Principles Project. First $25 gets you in the door. It's not very much. It's just a year-long subscription. It's going to be great, guys. And I need everyone in. There's 130 million families in this country. I don't need all 130 million of them. I'm just looking to get 1 million. So help me get to less than 1% of all American families and join us today. It's very simple. It's savethefamily.app. Would love to have you engaged in this.
That's awesome. Hey, Terry. All right. I gotta bring up one thing, because we were talking a little baseball off camera before we started, a little bit of sports and everything. But Terry, we have our crack research team. I learned something about you. It turns out we hear you're a Cubs fan, but when they won the World Series, according to anonymous reports, you kind of broke down and cried a little bit.
There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
So what's the deal, man? That's what we heard. I just want to. I give you a chance to go on the record here.
Yeah, look, Bobby. I stand by everything. I'm a raw guy. People know what they get when they're with me. I don't hide anything. But I will own up to this. But I will say, it was rough. I was 30 years old when the Cubs finally won the World Series, and I had been following since I was a little kid. And there were so many years we got this close to winning the World Series and just blew it. And that game 7 when we played the Indians in Cleveland, I don't know if you remember watching it, but we almost blew it again. We were up by 2 runs in the 9th inning. They ended up hitting and tying the game up. I thought we were going to lose. So it was so dramatic. My emotions were very high. And by the way, it was like 2 a.m. in the morning when it finally ended. So I was very tired, and I did break down and cry a little bit, but they were tears of joy. It was a very happy cry.
I love
you got
it.
A crack research team, I'll tell you that. That's good.
I love it. See, so, right, yeah. Our researching doesn't mess around with our guests. You're in the hot seat. But I do want to show you this, because our producer, she's involved in Major League Sports Broadcasting, MLB, and she brought this just to show you. I don't know if she's rubbing it in a little bit, but this is autographed Sammy Sosa, and it says HR 66. So she just wanted to share that with you. Don't
really
cry.
Beautiful.
You're right. Don't cry on that one. But dude, I appreciate it. One more time for folks out there, how can they get a hold of you?
Very simple. It's I'm on Twitter at Schilling1776. If you want to follow me there, I have some pretty offensive tweets. So if you ever want to see what getting canceled looks like, just follow my account. But if you want to sign up and get engaged in this pro-family movement, it's very simple. It's just savethefamily.app. We'd love to get you engaged.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Terry. I appreciate it. We'll have you back for sure, and let's keep in touch.
Anytime, Bobby. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, folks. I love that guy, Terry. He is awesome. I encourage you to get involved because, again, the left knows, when I talked about it earlier, faith, family, freedom, patriotism, they go to attack those pillars, those foundations of America and of society. So if we can fight back and strengthen the family, I'm working on strengthening my faith and the faith in general by studying theology, we can fight back against these folks. Because if they tear those down, as I mentioned, the only thing that's left is government, and we have to fight back against that. I appreciate everything you've done. I'll take a quick scan around. Any questions, since we're live? We're going to sign off pretty soon, but any quick questions, I'll be happy to go over. I've really been enjoying, folks. A special shout out to Right Side Broadcasting. We've got our awesome moderator team, LD Murray, Marjorie, Steele for Real. But when we're on Right Side Broadcasting, all those other folks step in, and they are just absolutely amazing. I really appreciate the camaraderie. It's like we brought the BE team to Right Side Broadcasting and became part of that family too. It's so great. It's so awesome. But I appreciate anyone that has come out. I was just looking down to see if we have any questions. One of them earlier, I didn't bring it up in the interview. I should have, but they were asking, how can people be racist when we fought against racism? When the North, white people, were fighting to free the slaves. And yet the left seems to forget about that. They don't talk about that. It's just that whites are racist. And as mentioned on a previous show, they are doing studies where they say a 3-month-old can be a racist. That shows you how nonsensical the left is. All right, folks, that's our show for today. But don't forget, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. All right, friends, our next show will be on Monday, our regular edition of the 13-minute news hour. I hope you like the Saturday live stream, because I like it because we blow that 13 minutes out of the water. Nice extended guests. We'll have more guests on. We've had some great ones in the past. Terry was awesome to talk to. But next show is Monday. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a Saturday live stream. Okay, friends, thanks so much for watching. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you'll be notified. And here's a special video just for you so you can watch even more of the 13-minute news hour. And don't forget to check out GOPUSA.com for the best in conservative news and commentary.